switch the slide over, at which point you may begin.
Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I would like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of January 19th, 2022. In accordance with the Governor's Healthy Washington guidelines and to protect city employees and members of the public from transmission of COVID-19, the City Council is conducting our weekly council meeting remotely. We are prepared to reopen the council chambers to public meetings when public health considerations indicate it is safe to do so. There are several ways in which you can engage with the council and participate in our meetings. To watch or participate in our remote meetings, you may watch council meetings live on Comcast Channel 21 or Frontier Channel 29. You may watch live online at www.everettwa.gov/citycouncil, where you may also watch past meetings. You may also call in to listen to the live meeting at any point by dialing 1-425-616-3920, conference ID number 724-887-726#. You may find the public comment registration form on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Once you go to register here to provide comment via Zoom, you will need to fill the form out completely if you wish to provide public comment at a future meeting. After the public comment form is submitted, you will receive an email confirmation with the Zoom link and the phone number to the meeting. Participants must submit this form at least 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Forms submitted after that time will not receive the Zoom link or number to speak, but may still participate the day of the meeting by submitting comments in writing to council@everettwa.gov. For assistance, please contact the council office at 425-257-8703 or email Deb Williams at dwilliams@everettwa.gov. Please note, we do not allow comments on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Outside of our meetings, members of the public are always welcome to contact council members or provide comments or concerns on any matter via email at council@everettwa.gov or by calling the City Council office at 425-257-8703. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
President Stonecipher.
Excused.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Councilmember Toohey.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Thank you.
I would like to call on Council Member Zarlingo to read the land acknowledgement, please.
City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohopsha people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they've hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and the water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. I would like to call on Councilmember Schwab to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of January 12th, 2022?
Councilmember Ryan, so moves.
Councilmember Toohey seconds the motion.
Thank you. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes. And thank you. Moving on to Mayor Franklin. Do you have anything for us today?
Yeah, good evening, Councilmember Vogely and Council. I wanted to follow up on your suggestion, Councilmember Vogely, that you gave last week regarding the city participating in the Puget Sound Climate Preparedness Collaborative. First, a big thank you for bringing that forward. As you heard from Councilmember Vogely, it's an informal network of local and tribal governments and agencies working together to make more climate change resilient communities. So this last week, staff reached out to the steering committee and the city will be joining. I've asked Kimberly Klein, who is our communications director, but she's also our acting climate change program coordinator, to represent the city in this collaborative. And she will, of course, work very closely with Councilmember Vogely. So again, a big thank you to Councilmember Vogely for bringing that to our attention. And I know Kimberly Klein looks forward to working with you. And with that, I have no further comment this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and double thanks. I'm glad to hear that. Moving on to council comments and liaison reports. Council members Arlingo.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Councilmember Vogely. I had several things to report on. I'll make this as brief as I can. I attended as a board member of the Puget Sound Regional Council's Transportation Advisory Committee. I attended their meeting last week, and for those who are not familiar with it in much detail, they conduct long-range planning, that's like 20 to 30 years in the future, for growth management, transportation, economic development, and collects regional data on demographics, housing, et cetera, building permits, that sort of thing. And they're designed in part to help direct federal funds coming to the region. And there was an interesting tension in discussions in public comment and by some of the board about their work in choosing roads versus non-road things, bicycles, pedestrians, and set aside percentages for that. And the tension comes, I think, because they both would like to promote some road development for commercial development and access for things like buses, but they also want to set aside money for multimodal transportation, especially bikes and pedestrians. And that amount of set aside is a complicated thing to calculate. So we'll look forward to digging into that in more detail and maybe reporting on some of the implications in the future meeting. I'm also part of the Board of Health, the Snohomish Health District's board, and most of you have seen the news releases on that, so I won't repeat what they came out with yesterday. One item I took out of this discussion from Dr. Spitters, there are a certain percentage of people who've been infected with COVID-19 in January in Snohomish County, the first half of January. And that estimate, the number they know about is something over 3%. But he estimated that the total number of those infected in January, not those who had been previously infected, but in Snohomish County in the first half of January was something north of 10%. So this is a reminder that for all of us, I think it's a good time to keep up our guard, do all we can at this period. The Center for Health Metrics, the University of Washington group that does statistics and predictions on that, is hopeful that things will improve, but they're really pretty darn bad right now. As Dr. Spitters had said, our hospitals are full. It was one ICU bed yesterday was all in the county. And so now is really a great time to just be careful, do all we can, get past this period the best we can. And then the last report is from the Puget Sound, a transit meeting I had with our transit director, Mr. Hinkson today, Tom Hinkson, and we're looking at the three major possibilities that were outlined to the board last fall in terms of transit going forward. That will get revised some too, as we understand our situation better with respect to revenues, both federal revenues and things like sales tax. So we'll be reporting back in more detail on that in the future. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Council members Arlingo, and now Council member Ryan.
Thank you. I had an opportunity to attend the Bayside Neighborhood Association meeting. Councilmember Fossey and I almost split the neighborhood down the middle, so we're both able to attend. And I was only able to be there for the first half hour because I had to roll off for the library board meeting, but had a chance to listen in on a presentation by Kate Lunsford with the League of Women's Voters of Snohomish County, and she shared more about the importance of the tree canopy and ways that the city and the region can get more involved with protecting, preserving, and even enhancing our tree canopy. So it's a great reminder of just how critical our tree canopy is to the health and welfare of our community and quality of air and quality of life. So appreciate the presentation. So I rolled off and joined the library board meeting, and it was great to meet the folks. And I was also at the first meeting for the newest library board member, Josh Glasgow, so I wanted to welcome him. And then we also had the opportunity to listen in on a presentation by a social work intern who's doing a study at the library to determine the viability of providing a social worker through the COET team at the library, whether that would be on a part-time basis, full-time basis, maybe a couple of them. So she's going to be doing some observations and some research over this next school quarter to determine that, and then writing up a report. So looking forward to reading that report. So, and then next week I'll be attending the Parks Board, and we'll definitely be passing along the pros plan and listening in on any suggestions that they might have, and be happy to pass it along to the group afterwards. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yes, thank you. I attended the Harborview Seahurst Glenwood Neighborhood Association meeting, and there was a really good turnout, and they did a presentation on Sharing Wheels Community Bike Shop there on Broadway, and a lot of discussion about the infrastructure of our streets and the availability of bikes, and they had a strong message for me to come back and say it's really important to that neighborhood. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Thank you, Councilmember Vogely. Tonight, I don't have any comments or liaison reports. Thank you.
Thank you much. And Councilmember Fossey.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few brief comments. I was able to attend the Bayside Neighborhood Association with Councilmember Ryan, and it was very interesting with Kate Lunsford. And when she was going over their tree campaign, it was based on education and advocacy, and they had talked about how the county is still collecting comments on the county comp plan until February 25th, so people can put insight there. And then they just went into the kind of the county initiated urban tree policy. But the other tier is the partnerships, and they are actually partnering with the Delta Neighborhood Association in some tree planting projects. So that's pretty exciting, and they're planning on expanding that hopefully in the future to other areas. And then I hopped over to the Delta Neighborhood Association meeting, and they talked about the Delta Kids program expanding. So now it's first and third graders at Hawthorne Elementary, and they're going to have a spring art show with the Shack. And so their speaker was the City of Everett Planning Director, York, and it was very interesting. He went over kind of just a discussion of some planning and future Baker Heights development. And then there was also an announcement of the ballots that are going to be dropping soon. So people will be seeing those in their mailboxes for some levies that are going through. And then they said the due date was February 8th for some funding. So that was it, and that concludes my remarks. I don't think I have anything else.
Thank you, Councilmember Fossey. It looks like it's my turn. That reminds me what you've said. There's also ballots being mailed for the Mukilteo School District levy. So if y'all are in the Mukilteo School District but still live in Everett, look for those in your mailbox. And yeah, that's all I have. And do we have an update from administration?
Sorry, took me a minute to unmute. Thank you, Council Member Vogely. There is no administrative update tonight.
Thank you much. And City Attorney, Mr. Hall, do you have anything?
Thank you. I don't have anything to report, and there is no executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb, have we received any comments from the community for public comment?
Good evening, Councilmember Vogely. We have no one waiting to speak and we've received no written comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Do I have a motion for the 4 consent items?
Councilmember Tui moves the 4 consent items.
Councilmember Ryan seconds.
With a motion and a second, clerk, are there any questions? I don't think so because it's the consent. Okay, please take the roll.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey,
Yes.
and Councilmember Vogely.
Yes. We have one item for proposed action, but I will not read it because it was read last week. So moving on to the action items. Item number 6 is the districting nominations 2022. Before we begin, I will explain the process. Nicole Weber, administration, will draw names to determine the order in which nominations will be made. Each council member and the mayor need to select different applicants. Erica will map each selection on screen by address, allowing everyone to see a visual during the process. When Council President Stonecipher's name is called, City Attorney David Hall will provide her nomination as she stated last week at Council. Should anyone need to make a second nomination because geographic diversity is not met, we will continue until all nominations are complete. If council finds that a nomination needs to be changed, that will happen in reverse order. So if like numbers 1, 3, and 6 are neighbors too close, not geographically diverse enough, it will be the number 6 that is asked to change their selection. So the last one who chooses is the first one to change. Once we have all the nominations completed, I will open the floor for questions or comments. Excuse me. I will ask staff to come back on January 26th after confirming that the nominees are indeed still available and willing to serve. On January 26th, before President Stonecipher asks for a motion, staff will share any challenges or changes that need to be made. If none and all have confirmed to be available, the action will be voted on. Before we begin, are there any questions about the process? Just raise your hands or call yourself out.
Councilmember Vogely, I do have an edit to that process because I was unable to find a way to map them live without and being able to hide their addresses. I will map it, and then after I have all the pins on the map, I'll share the map just to protect people's home addresses and privacy.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Okay, Nicole, it's your turn. Please draw the names.
Okay, I've got my little cup here with all of your names in it. So first will be Councilmember Zarlingo.
I'd like to nominate Jared Norman Seitz.
Thank you. Let's wait till all the names are called. My apologies for not saying that, but hold that thought, Councilmember Zarlingo. We're going to get all the names drawn first.
So Councilmember Zarlingo, and then we'll have Councilmember Fossey. And then to follow Councilmember Fossey will be Councilmember Ryan. Lay these all out. And then we will have my little pieces of paper, too small here. Councilmember Vogely. And then we will have Councilmember Schwab. And then Councilmember Tui. then Councilmember Stonecipher, and then that leaves Mayor Franklin last but not least. Yes. Okay.
Unmute myself with, okay. Thank you. So I have the list. I'm sure other people have written down their list too. And now, Councilmember Zarlingo, it is indeed your turn.
I nominate Jared Norman Sites.
All right. That's easy enough. Councilmember Fossey.
Clarification. So no comments at this time, just a simple nomination.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a comment before you make your nomination if you have one.
I just wanted to mention that I was very impressed with so many great applicants and so many people wanting to step up and serve on this commission. And there's a lot of different things that play into our choices on this. And so there was lots of names that I wish that I could have chosen. But I think I chose somebody that will definitely champion public participation and has kind of a great experience behind them. And will definitely fight for more voices to be heard, which is important to me. So I'm going to nominate Alessandra Durham.
Thank you, Councilmember Fossey. Next, Councilmember Ryan.
Yeah, I definitely echo what Councilmember Fossey shared. There's District 2 had the most applicants, and it was a very difficult pool to choose between. And I'm just really grateful too that the City of Everett just has such a high caliber of interested folks who want to get involved with the city and also interested in the districting process. Tonight, I'd like to nominate Leah Errett Atkinson. I was really impressed with her resume and had a chance to chat with her. She's literally published in the Journal of Urban Planning on using Google Street View for neighborhood assessments. And while I chatted with her on the phone, she shared that during her time in the Army, she utilized translation services for intentional outreach to engage with the civilian population in the area that she was serving. So I know that the outreach is also something that's really important to me, and reaching out to communities instead of expecting communities to reach into the city. And so I know she has a great history with that, and she'll be a really excellent team player, and that from her academic studies, the learning curve will definitely be super short for her. So glad to put her name forward today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ryan of District 2. Next it's me. Like everyone has said, tough choice, many great possibilities. I have decided to go with someone from my district, and even that was a difficult choice. But here goes, and it is, dun, 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 dun. I have now moved her pages. Nope, Ana Benitez. And like I said, she is District 4, and that is my nomination. So next, Councilmember Schwab, District 3.
Yes, I too had a difficult choice with so many good candidates. So at this time, I'll nominate Nathan Shelby.
Thank you. I'm not certain if I'm supposed to be saying which district your nominees are from. So now
Nathan Shelby is in District 3. I had a Zoom video with 4 candidates from my district and reviewed the rest of them. So I thought I'd start with my district.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. So next, Council Member Tui, let us know your nomination and what district they are in, please.
Thank you. Well, I too want to first thank everybody who applied for these positions. I really enjoyed reading each and every one of them, and my list was so long when I first started this process that I could have gone with, I could still go with, I still have a list that's like 6 or 7 long. So But I think that my choice tonight is someone also from District 2. However, she does live in the New Riverfront area, so it's a little farther removed to the east. But Jocelyn Severs Bailey, she has lived in Everett her whole life. She is very involved as an educator, a volunteer throughout Everett. She's very active in our community in many, many ways. And so I think she would make a great choice. And I hope that it works out, that she's able to be there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Toohey. And David Hall, would you please read Council President Stonecipher's nomination?
Council President Stonecipher's nominee is Simone Tarver from District 1.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And finally, Mayor Franklin, your nominee.
Thank you. And first, again, awesome candidates. Quick question. I didn't hear the first two, which districts they're in. Jared, is that, Ben, is that from District?
That's District 5.
5, and then
Yes.
Alessandro's District 2, is that correct? Okay, just checking on that because I have a long list like Councilmember Toohey, and I'm trying to balance the district representation with everything. So since we only have one representative from Council District 1, I'm going to nominate Scott Bader from District 1. He, as you all know, is a former council member and is somebody that I know knows our community very well after having doorbelled it multiple times. And so he's very familiar with each of the neighborhoods and has lived in a number of districts. So that's my nomination.
Thank you very much. It seems to me just by the first looks that it's going to be geographically diverse, but Nicole, do you have
I am ready.
answer?
Yes, let me just make this visible here.
And I believe you'll be sharing your screen. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh dear, does this mean I get to sing a little bit? Because you know I will.
Okay,
Oh, good, just in time.
just in time. So this is what our map looks like. So I will put this map behind the council item for the 26th, and then we'll bring it back for a vote at that time, unless there's any questions or comments tonight.
I will mention something before I ask for questions or comments, and that is I think we can, as a council, look at this and say, yeah, that's geographically diverse, or no, that's not geographically diverse, give an opinion. And then we are going to be voting on the 26th, regardless of what the geographical diversity is. So for me, it looks pretty diverse for dots on a map in our city. And does anyone else agree or disagree?
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
of course, I'm not voting on this, but and there is no very specific legal standard for what constitutes geographical diversity, but this looks pretty good to me from a legal standpoint.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Legalese is appreciated.
Councilmember Vogely, I concur. This is Councilmember Zarlengo.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilmember Toohey, I think it looks great.
Sounds good.
Especially considering that we had a wealth of folks from District 2 that they're still spread out. So that's great. That's great to see. So good work, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone. That was pretty anticlimactic, but thank you for being able to put that on the map, Nicole. And let's see, as stated at the beginning, staff will bring back the nominations on January 26th. thank you for real to everyone. And thank you to all the applicants willing to serve. We appreciate very much your commitment to the city. This is big time, yay. So thank you very much for applying. And
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes,
may I
ma'am.
just comment that one of the things that Nicole will do between now and a few days from now is circle back around with the nominees and confirm their continued willingness to serve and clarify that. So that will be part of what's brought back. I suspect there won't be any question about that, but we wanted to follow that detail as well before next week.
Thank you very much, Lori. Yeah, so if there does happen to be someone that can't make it work, then there will need to be another nomination, but we can figure that out on the 26th. Okay, anything else, or I will move on. Hearing none, we shall move on to the council briefing agenda. These items come before the city council serving as a council committee of the whole and are likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. Item number 7 is the lease agreement with Bezos Academy. And I believe we have Dan Ernestine here to start us off and introduce our presenters.
Happy New Year, Council. It's great to be here to present tonight. And I'm very excited about this process. It really started last year. My wife says last year was the hardest year of the pandemic. This is the weirdest one where it seems like everything is crazy. But in under a year, we received a cold call email from Scott Edison, who you'll hear from later. And I'll just read a part of it. It says, this was to Mayor Franklin. We are in the early stages of building a nationwide network of tuition-free, full-day, year-round preschools in underserved communities. Everett's a community that is growing fast, and based on what I've read, there are many families in the community that have limited or zero options for affordable, high-quality preschool. And then he gave some data that showed that for every preschool offering, there's 2 kids under age 6 who both parents work that don't have an option for high-quality preschool in one of the zip codes. And we went on to confirm that in several of the zip code areas of Everett. This is a real need. It's been made worse by the pandemic. I'm very happy to introduce the team from the Bezos Academy, which Scott represents, to present this opportunity to the city. This came to us in the middle of ARPA funding mentality, where we're trying to think how to use this money. It turns out that it's best funded from our city side, from general fund, rather than using ARPA funds. And we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. But what I'd like to do is introduce the Bezos Academy team, have them go through a presentation of their program, and then I'll come back and show how it applies specifically in Everett. And while I'm introducing them and they're introducing themselves, I'll try to share their PowerPoint. And if it doesn't work right away, that's on me. So Scott Edison, who I mentioned, Katie Ford is their communications lead, and Emmanuel Iman, who is a new Everett resident, and I'm sure he'll tell you about that as well. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Dan. And thank you for having us here at your meeting tonight. We're pretty excited about this opportunity because I think as you just got a little preview of from Dan, Everett has been at the top of the list of communities that we have been wanting to serve since we first started this work. And so to make it to this moment today, to be able to share more about what we'd like to be able to offer the families of Everett, it's just a really exciting place for us to be. Before we dig into the presentation, a short intros. I'm Katie Ford, head of communications for Bezos Academy. I have lived in Washington State for 15 and a half years. And I know that precisely because my daughter, my oldest, was 6 months old when we moved here, and she just turned 16 yesterday, which I'm still having trouble wrapping my brain around. I'll pass it over to Scott next to introduce himself.
Thanks, Katie. Great to be with you all tonight. My name is Scott Edison. I'm responsible for partnerships here at Bezos Academy, and I'm really excited we're at this stage. As Dan mentioned, we had many discussions, and he's provided us with lots of great background and data about Everett, and helped us better understand the lay of the land. Where the families that really need services like ours reside. I've lived in Washington State for all of my 50 years. And I've got 2 children that are in the North Shore School District, so not so far away. And so I'm just excited to tell you a little bit about what we're up to, and I look forward to our partnership. Emmanuel?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So my name is Emmanuel Ima, and I recently moved from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, to the Pacific Northwest. And I have 2 young boys who are in the Everett School District. So I am very much part of the local community, and I am excited to share the opportunity that we have with you. Thank you.
So, we have a kind of a vision and mission statement at Bezos Academy, which is that we believe that all children deserve the great start that an excellent preschool provides. And, for us to be at a place a little over a year after opening our very first school, to have now 5 schools open in Washington State, serving 128 preschoolers, it's really exciting for us. And what brings that experience to life is when we have the opportunity to spend time in those classrooms. Now, in a non-COVID ideal world, we'd be having this conversation at one of our schools and giving you the opportunity to experience that for yourselves. But I know we've all learned to make the best of video in lieu of in person. So before we get into more of the details about our program, we thought we'd kick off with just a short video that I think does a nice job of bringing that classroom experience to life. Dan, if you want to progress to the next slide, we can play the video.
I heard the cue. I'm just having trouble with, you're seeing this, the screen share. I must have taken it. So I am just working on how to make it go forward. I'm sorry.
Sometimes there's a delay too.
Maybe Pipa can jump in and help too.
There we go.
Every single thing we do begins and ends with the child and the needs of the child. If we serve the family, it's because we're serving the child. Bezos Academy is a nonprofit, tuition-free, Montessori-inspired preschool network. We believe that every child deserves the advantages that an excellent preschool provides. Unfortunately, only half of the children in the United States are in a preschool. And the reason for that is, one, just accessibility. There aren't enough seats. Secondly, and as importantly, it's just too expensive. It's not affordable for most families. And that's the space that we want to address.
Every single child is worthy and is absolutely capable and deserves a high quality education.
Providing early childhood education, it's a public good. It's like infrastructure. So when you think of roads and bridges, they help build communities and they help communities thrive. And that's exactly what early childhood education does.
What we know now is that who we are and our potential is dramatically impacted by what happens from birth to about 5 or 6 years old. That's why it's so important that we invest in preschool education.
When she comes home, Aaliyah is so excited to tell me about her day. She asks me questions that she learned in school. They really rely on independent work, which is great.
The children get to explore the environment and find what is interesting to them.
It's about removing the obstacles so they can get to what they need to do so that they can have that self-actualization and growth.
Not only do we build a love of learning, but we also set them up for success in the future.
What does it take to build an academy from start to finish, especially during a pandemic? We come into a community that needs a preschool. We seek out a partner who also understands the importance of high-quality preschool, and their contribution is a facility. And then we come into that facility and we perform all of the leasehold improvements that will create a beautiful, safe environment for the children. And we launch the school together.
The partnership between Wesley and Bezos Academy has been one that has been very inspirational for, I think, both parties.
Well, hello, I'm Shirley Tollefson. I'm a resident at Wesley Gardens in Des Moines, Washington. It's a joy to see the children on our campus. I feel that it's a very worthwhile cause.
This is a tremendous program, and we just want to support it in any way we can.
Big things start small. Our first school is a single classroom with a maximum of 20 students. We see having hundreds of Bezos Academies across the country. And when I think about that, I think about the children. And over time, we'll affect them in a positive way and probably anyone that they touch in their lives.
It's about time that every child and family in this country is deemed worthy and given the opportunity to experience a loving, welcoming environment that is just for them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that video. Katie, I'll take it from here. So what we've done at Bezos Academy is that we have combined the innovative and fast-paced culture of a modern business with a deep bench of education talent. That is what we've done. And the idea is to look at the opportunity that we have in front of us through a fresh and unique lens. Our philosophy is the child first. This means that, as our president spoke in that video, that the child and their family are at the center of everything we do. We treat each child as a valued customer, and we constantly apply what we learn to our model with the goal of providing ever-improving experiences for our customer. Bezos Academy, we are licensed by the Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families, that's DCYF. And of course, they are responsible for ensuring that our preschool meets state requirements. When you read through our website and everything, and when we talk, we say that we are Montessori inspired, that our program is Montessori inspired. So although Montessori is our foundation, we do not strictly adhere to the Montessori pedagogy. As a result, we have not sought Montessori accreditation. And we also have not sought accreditation from like NAEYC. we plan to build on our Montessori-inspired approach as we learn what works. We are constantly assessing and reassessing our work, and to the point that Katie made, that we have 5 schools in operation. We are constantly modifying our approach to meet the needs of our children and their families as we learn what works. So what actually makes our program work? Dan, if you could move to the next slide. You know, our schools offer year-round programming, 5 days a week for children ages 3 to 5 years old. It's our belief that this schedule is not only beneficial for the children's learning and growth, but it also makes it easier for parents and other adults who need to pursue economic activities outside the home. So the academic day starts from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. with extended learning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. For each of our schools, we have a head of school. Then every classroom has a lead teacher and 2 assistant teachers for a maximum of 20 children per classroom. We have mixed age classes. And I will say also that our lead teachers and our heads of schools are credentialed educators. We are committed to continuous development of these educators and all our staff. For example, we have a leadership institute for our heads of schools and a summer institute for our lead teachers and our assistant teachers. In our classes, we have mixed age classes. I was going to explain 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. They are put together in the same class. We've discovered and it's known that this model actually supports the development of skills. For instance, the older children, they develop leadership skills, and then the younger ones benefit by learning from the older children. In our program, we seek out the best educators, and then we provide competitive pay and benefits. We are committed to ensuring that each one of our schools exists as a part of the community as we are coming into Everett, not outside of it. This means that the value that we bring is both long-term and it is also community focused. For instance, we prioritize hiring and training teachers from within the community. Our goal is to hire and to train teachers who reflect the children, the students, the families that we serve. We also work with the parents to promote their involvement in their children's education. And we work with our partners to leverage all our resources in ways that enhance both our program and the surrounding community. Of course, our program is at no cost to the families that we serve. We provide 3 high-quality meals and snacks each day for the children. This, our model, is a product of decades of experience. As I said, we have a very deep bench of education talent, but we are constantly testing our own practices. And the goal is for us to improve the experience as we learn and grow more. Dan, if you could go to the next slide. Now, the question will be, I know that Scott had alluded to this, and Dan also mentioned in Scott's early email to the city administration in terms of why are we interested in Everett? Number one, in Bezos Academy, what we do is that we identify, our work actually is that we identify eligible communities based on answers to 3 key questions. The number one is, does the community have a high concentration of low-income families? Number 2 is, how many 3 to 5-year-old children live in the community? And then the third critical question is, what is the gap between the number of preschool age children and the full day year-round licensed preschool seats that are available within the community? We look for communities that have a large and growing access gap. We are especially focused on serving families who earn a little too much to qualify for fully subsidized programs like Head Start, but who still cannot afford to pay for preschool. So under our enrollment and admissions policy, students from households that earn up to 400% of the federal poverty level are eligible for our program. We also provide admissions preference to children that are experiencing homelessness and those in foster care or from households that earn less than 250% of the federal poverty level. Looking at Everett, as I said, we prioritize communities where the census and other data indicate that there is a need for more affordable preschools. And early on, just as Scott made that reached out, we identified Everett as a place, as a community, as a city that actually has a need for more affordable preschools. Of course, there are great schools and programs in Everett, but there is a clear gap between the raw number of low-income preschool age children living in the city and the number of seats available in existing early learning programs. The raw data is right there in front of us. We can see from DCYF that several zip codes in the city are considered as childcare access deserts. And there's less than 50% of preschool need that has been met within the city. Many educators will tell you, and this is data also that we have from the Office of the Superintendent for Public Instruction, that 53% of children in Everett enter kindergarten without foundational skills. These are all raw data that's out there in the public domain, that close to 13% of the population in the city live below poverty line. And then the average monthly cost for preschools is between $800 and $1,200. Then the school district, Everett School District, where my children also go to school, about a third of elementary schools in Everett School District are entitled to one school-wide program. So you will agree with me that there is an obvious need for affordable preschools in Everett. Our fundamental objective is to increase the access that, to preschool education for low-income children within the city. The communities that we serve do not have enough affordable preschools to meet their needs. So what we do is that we come in to supplement and increase existing capacity of preschool seats. We build relationships with local partners who haven't previously had the resources or the opportunities to bring new preschools to their communities. We are very collaborative in our operations, and we are very intentional not to work to upend or negatively impact existing players in the early childhood education ecosystem. We initiate relationships with other childcare providers, local leaders like yourselves, community serving organizations, and we find ways to support and integrate into existing and current efforts. I'll invite Scott, maybe you explain more in terms of our partnership model. So Dan, if you can go to the next slide.
I think we missed one. I think there was one other slide before this one, Dan. No, maybe not. Sorry about that. So in terms of what we're looking for in partners and how we determine the kinds of organizations that we align with, one of the first steps in our investigation or exploration of a new community is to get to know people that understand what's going on. And so as we look for partners, there's a couple things that we need to do. We need to validate that what we're reading is true. And so we need people that truly understand the community that we're evaluating. And so when we originally met with Dan, I wanted the unvarnished truth. Is what we're seeing in this data true today? Is it still true? We know things are moving fast. We believe the situation in early learning and childcare is worse than when the pandemic started, but that's not universally true. And to Emmanuel's earlier point about upsetting the existing ecosystem, that is important to us. We do not want to displace great programs. We want to provide incremental capacity. And so step one is finding leaders and organizations that truly understand their communities and are committed to doing the right thing for families in their communities. We also need to be able to kind of game plan. What does it look like to enter a new city? There's certainly space considerations, but there are many other things that we have to think about. How are we going to recruit? How are we going to recruit the right families? How are we going to make sure we're getting in front of the kids and the parents that need us most? How are we going to recruit teachers and staff? We want to collaborate with our partners so that we're going to the right places and we're tapping into great community colleges and institutions of higher learning. And of course, there's the space issue. We are not in the business of owning real estate. We want to concentrate on building an amazing educational institution. We want to hire great teachers. We want to hire great services and bring them in. We'll bring in great food service and everything else that a child needs to thrive. And that's where we're going to spend our time and money. So we need to find partners that understand the need, are committed to addressing the need, and have surplus space that we can use to build out a beautiful preschool facility. In addition to that, we have to make sure that there's a space outdoors for kids to play. And lastly, as it states in the last bullet, a desire to act now. We look to align with organizations and leaders that not only want to act, but are ready to make a difference right now. Dan, next slide, please. So it's a big ask, and we know it. We're asking for your time. We're asking for space in one of your facilities, and we realize this is an unusual ask. But what we bring to the table we think is valuable, and I guess just to put a fine point on it, here is what we want to commit to the families of Everett. We want to provide full day year-round tuition-free preschool, and we've said it a number of times that it's tuition-free, but just to be clear, we're not asking the city of Everett or any of your citizens to pay for a dime of the operation of our schools or tuition. So we are fully funded, and we will pay for the operation of the preschool on an ongoing basis. We hire highly trained and committed educators. When we come into a new building, there are a lot of special things. If you've been involved in education, there are a lot of special things that you need to do to operate a licensed preschool. It's not like you just show up and paint the walls a different color and put in some little desks and go. There are a lot of requirements, from many tiny toilets and sinks to auto locking gates and all kinds of considerations that you might not think about. And so we go to great lengths to make sure that all of our facilities are secure. And when I say secure, as far as security systems, cameras, monitoring to make sure nobody's coming in or out that shouldn't. We have state-of-the-art software and access control protocols in order to make sure our students and teachers are safe, and everything down to the way that we furnish the classroom. So every single classroom has a full set of Montessori materials, and that may sound like a generic thing, but it's actually kind of a big deal. We go through great lengths to make sure every classroom has everything educators need to prepare the classroom for kids the same way, so that we can provide a consistent experience and make sure kids are getting a great education. As I mentioned, we bring in quality food service. We have developed our own food service requirements. And if you have ever attended public schools like I did, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes there's great food, sometimes not great food. We are really committed to providing every child high quality, nutritious foods, plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables. And wherever we can, again, we're trying to hire local vendors and services. And I guess lastly, our commitment is long-term. We want to be in the community as long as the need's there. It would be fantastic if in less than 10 years, there was no longer an access gap in Everett. Unfortunately, I think there's still going to be a need. And so our intention is to partner with the City of Everett and support this community for 10 years or longer, if we can. And those were our prepared slides. And certainly we hope there's time at the end for questions. Dan, I'll leave it to you to tell us when the right time to do some Q&A is.
Absolutely. I tell you, it's a little different sharing in this environment in Zoom than it is on a Teams call. So I'm learning. So I'm assuming everybody is with me, and you can't see me, but I'm here. I'm just going to go over briefly what it means in the City of Everett. It's a great program, like I said, data driven as well as free. And those are things that I like to see. The location is the Everett Station, really one of the best buildings in the City of Everett. I have colored on the Everett Station the north wall in the first floor yellow because that represents this wall in this schematic. And that is really where the Bezos Academy would dwell. The purple area outside is the play area that we're proposing that they take the parking lot that is there and convert that into an outdoor play area. The length of the agreement that we're asking you to give the mayor authorization to sign next week is 10 years. Bezos Academy will have the option to extend it for 5 more years. If the city were to terminate that lease at any time, we have to basically pay them for the tenant improvements they've done, the value of those, or find them a new place. So there is an ability to terminate, but we anticipate obviously having a long relationship with the Bezos Academy. The rent is free to them. And as far as the need, we had our GIS team do a summary of within 1 mile, there are basically 700 children under 6 years old. Within 3 miles, there are close to 3,000 children under 6 years old. And assuming that the stats are similar to what we've seen elsewhere in Everett, we would assume that close to 2,000 of those children do not have high quality preschool options that are affordable. Costs of the city, it's an internal transfer from the general fund to the Everett Transit Fund. The Everett Transit owns the building and is part of the City of Everett, but it's a separate account that can only be used for transit. And so we need to pay fair market rate to the Everett Transit for the space. Interestingly, the former tenant was the Vet Service Center, and it was only paying $2,000 a month for that for many years. It's been vacant. The space has been vacant for some time now, years. And so the city has been, or Everett Transit has been getting no rent for that space. We're proposing $5,000 a month or $60,000 per year to start. And that will, we believe with the tenant improvements that they're doing, that reflects more than fair market rent for Everett Transit to receive. The benefits of the city are really what's amazing though. 10 years of free preschool food supplies licenses for up to 60 children. If you think about that cost of an average month of preschool being $800 and change to $1,200 and change for a household, really that first bullet alone is $60,000 per month in value for our residents and for those who can take advantage of this service. It provides valuable tenant improvements to activate the Everett Station. Buildings have personalities, and this brings life. It brings a whole generation of people to Everett Station that don't normally commute. And so it's kind of exciting to think about parents and children and guardians and caretakers all coming and going every day from Everett Station and adding to the mix. It also converts this space, about 3,800 square feet roughly, into a early learning center that can be used regardless of whether or not Bezos Academy continues on after 10 years. We believe the tenant improvements will be roughly about $1 million, or if you broke that down into that 10-year monthly rate, about $8.5 thousand per month of the value of the improvements. And I'm just guessing at the value, but I've built a playground before and it wasn't on asphalt, and I know how expensive that can be. Household members are able to rejoin the workforce, energize our economy, earn income, rather than having to pay that $1,000 plus or minus in childcare. Bezos Academy themselves will be creating 12 new jobs. And as they stated, they are looking to recruit not only students, but employees from the local area. They will be serving low-income households, as they can explain, or they have explained already, in prioritizing children in foster care and those experiencing homelessness, the very people that we as city public servants are really here to serve. So we're going to have a discussion, but before we do, I'd just like the mayor would like to say a few comments.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dan, and thank you to the Bezos Academy team for the excellent presentation. As you heard at the beginning, I've been very excited about this for some time. As a mom in this community, when I moved to Everett with a toddler, I could not find childcare, and I actually had to commute to both Seattle and Mill Creek to get her early education care that I needed as a working mother. And that is something that, you know, of course I could do and I could afford, but we have the vast majority of our families who cannot afford that commute or the cost of childcare. And so the opportunity that this presents is just stunning. I'm thrilled. And I think, you know, over the course of the last 2 years of this pandemic, what I've seen happen to working parents and working mothers in particular that have not been able to go back into the workforce because they're having to be home, childcare centers that have closed, knowing that Everett was a childcare desert pre-pandemic and that it has only gotten worse. I'm just excited about this opportunity and look forward to the discussion, but just wanted to thank the team of our staff, Dan and Tom and so many others that have been working on this behind the scenes to present this to you. So thank you.
And before we launch into the discussion, Councilmember Vogely, I did want to say one thing as I look at this beautiful photo of the inside of Everett Transit Station. The Bezos Academy are proposing that they create their own entrance that will be secure. They won't be using the main entrance. And in case anyone's worried, like I was, they will be building their own bathrooms within the space. And so they will put no demand on the public restrooms, nor will the public restrooms put any demands on them. So it'll be a self-contained space and with a secure play area as well. So with that, I will turn it over for council questions, and all of us that are shown here are able to answer questions based on our skill area.
And maybe Dan, you could stop sharing your screen so that we can see each other. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. We will definitely go down the line because that was quite a presentation. Council members Arlingo, do you have any questions or comments?
That was a very good and comprehensive presentation. It answered the questions I had, including where where the playground would be, because I've been around Everett Station a little bit and I don't remember any outdoor grassy areas like that. Overall, I would say I'm happy to see an effort made toward children. I think that's the highest leverage thing we can do in most cases, improving the lives of children in terms of general community benefit, happiness, and productivity for a lifetime. So thanks very much for the presentation. I look forward to action on this.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan, do you have any comments?
I do. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Scott, I'm a product of the North Shore School District, so your kids are in for a bright future. So I'm the mom of a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I feel like every working parent knows that once you find out you're pregnant, the very first phone call that you make is to a preschool center to get on their wait list. So I'm always glad to see early learning opportunities, and with extraordinary income inequality that we're experiencing and the extraordinary cost of childcare in our area, that opportunity is not one that most parents have. So I'm always glad to support some early learning opportunities. Let's see, the questions that I did have, Emmanuel answered most of them. I had questions, I guess more specifically, if you could share more about the process for staff selection and if the compensation packages that they'd be receiving are commensurate with the Montessori industry standards. I'd love to hear more about that.
I can jump in. In terms of staff selection, I'm not sure where to start there, other than to say we are quite selective. We do require, as I think Emmanuel said, for our heads of school and lead teachers, these are certified, credentialed teachers. Teaching assistants aren't necessarily credentialed teachers, but we do provide training to get them familiar with the Montessori practices and Bezos Academy practices. In terms of compensation, we try to align closely with the local public school district. So we have chosen not to peg our pay to daycare or childcare pay. We're much closer aligned with what you might find in primary school or elementary school. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. I have a question for, let's see, our attorney. Tim, I have a question for you, mostly out of curiosity. How would this not be considered a gift of public funds?
What we have here is the gift of public funds rule. The exception to it is support for the poor and infirm, and that's the language from the state constitution. And so the city's contribution here, which is the rent, would be seen as going for the low-income kids, particularly the ones experiencing homelessness and the foster kids. So that's how we deal with the gift of public funds issue. You can also see there's another prong to it where early childhood education is also usually seen as a fundamental purpose of government, which also satisfies the gift of public funds issue.
Fascinating, thank you. I was wondering if any other locations had been considered.
Yeah,
Everett?
I'll answer that one. Yeah, we've looked at several other locations. This one stood out as being able to hit the ground running immediately, but we hope to actually pursue other locations. And we believe that the City of Everett has an appetite for more locations, and Bezos Academy might be able to oblige us as well. So City of Everett's a large city, as you know, with lots of geographic areas that can have a 3-mile radius put around it with lots of need for childcare.
Okay, great. I also had some concerns about the outdoor access space. I think that outdoor access is very critical, but right next to a train station, I have concerns about the respiratory protection of the kids that are going to be outside near train tracks. So I was wondering what the vision is for the outdoor play area, and if there's any opportunities for increased tree canopy in the area as well.
You know, we do work with an outdoor play area consultant. I'm not going to try and describe to you what they'll come up with for this particular case, but we've run across some interesting situations in the past where, you know, we had to build a play area on top of a parking garage that was all concrete, and I couldn't imagine how they'd get it done, but they were able to bring in a combination of kind of artificial and natural surfaces and made a fun, safe play area for the kids. Is it ideal? No. I mean, we would love to have a beautiful forested area right next to the station, but I don't think that's possible. So our intention is to do the best with the space we have and make sure it's, you know, adjacent to the learning space and secure.
Great. Yeah, I think with the proximity of it on the south side of the building, particularly in the summer and with climate change and all the, you know, the heat from the building, the heat from the asphalt, it could be potentially like a really hot space that the children wouldn't be able to utilize during the summertime. So I just wanted to make a mention of that. I see Dan's hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to point out it's on the north side of the building.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
North and south mixed up. Let's see. I think that's it for my questions. I did also want to plug while we're on the early learning topics. I'd also love to see investments in the Everett's Early Learning Center, the early learning preschool at the Forest Park area, and also support for the Early Learning Center at Everett Community College. So we just have such a shortage in the area, and, you know, being a mom of two little ones, it has just gone through trying to plug my child in somewhere at a place that's affordable and has spot on their list for our family is just, it's really important. So I know that the more the merrier as far as spots go at early learning centers. So I just wanted to add a plug for that as well. So thank you for listening to my questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you for that presentation. I too would like to echo Council Person Ryan's plugs. I too am a big supporter of those two locations. I did have a question about the use of transit. Has there been any study on what the actual use of the buses? Will parents use the buses? I mean, obviously the location is ideal for it. I was just wondering if you had studied or looked at that possibility.
From the Bezos Academy perspective, we have not run a formal study. No, we have questions about, you know, how parents will end up using the space, which parents will apply, whether they're going to be parents that are already using transit, and so it's a convenient way for them to take care of their childcare needs, or if parents are just going to, you know, choose that location because it's full day year-round free Montessori. So the answer is we don't know. We have lots of questions, and we're looking forward to learning.
I know one of the issues is drop off and pickup for especially in a busy location. I don't know if you've looked at that at all in this location. It's obviously a very busy place at times.
It is. From what we understand, there's a large parking lot and drop-off area, and because our program is extended hours, our kids don't necessarily come and go at all the same times. It's sort of a staggered, start and end to the day, and so you wouldn't see all 60 kids coming and going at once. Some of them will come at 8, some will come at 8:30, some might come at 9. So I don't anticipate it's going to be a problem, but you know, I would look to the City of Everett team to tell us if you think it will be.
I'll also chime in to say that in large part because of the pandemic, and we opened our first school in 2020, so the pandemic has always been part of our operating reality. Pretty quickly, our drop off and pickup process becomes very brief, because we can't actually welcome lots of parents into the schools easily because of the requirements around, temperature checks, et cetera, for the safety of the kids. So usually what you see at our schools at pickup and drop off times is the head of school, the teachers out front welcoming the students as their parents are dropping them off, and then the parents are quickly on their way.
Thank you.
I'll just add, I have my hand up that.
I was just going to recognize you.
Yeah, well, thank you. The space is adjacent to the pickup drop-off area for the station that are used by a number of cars. I would think that you could probably line up a dozen vehicles head to toe or nose to heel, whatever it is, on a car. And you would still have space. So it's kind of an ideal spot in the transit. There's a covered walkway adjacent as well on the west side of the building. And I'm sorry about my presentation earlier. I probably got you all turned around on the building. I can arrange for staff at the Everett Transit to escort you through the facility, certainly between now and next week, but later if you just want to look at the Everett Transit facility as well. So just send me an email and I'm happy to arrange that with members of our staff.
Thank you, Dan. Councilmember Toohey.
Thank you, Councilmember Vogely. I have a couple questions. So for Dan Enersey, how many parking stalls or spots are going to be taken over with the playground?
With the playground, it's that's a great question, and I don't have the exact number. I can send you a diagram with them. I believe it's about 10.
Oh, okay.
And they are some of them are part of our ADA stalls, but we were overparked for ADA stalls by less than we're sacrificing. So there's no ramifications for that, and we are actually overparked for the spaces dedicated to the transit agency as well, for the transit building. And so we don't think the parking demands will outstrip the supply.
Okay, so the impact is minimal, you think, for the transit center and the folks that use the facility for other purposes?
Yes, I mean, we had to build parking spots for the tenant of the space when we built the Everett Transit Station, and Bezos Academy is well within the number of stalls that we have designated for this space.
Okay, great. And then a question for the Bezos Academy. I'm just curious if everything goes according to plan, when will you open? And what does the outreach look like? How are you going to really reach the communities, the families that need you the most?
So I can jump in since it looks like Emmanuel's having trouble coming off mute. I'll answer the family piece, and then Emmanuel, I'll let you speak to kind of what we're targeting for opening. You know, we first and foremost would want to work with the City of Everett and you all to make sure that we are doing the kind of outreach that we described earlier in our presentation to the kind of the local places that you know way better than any research that we could do would tell us of, you know, where we need to be present, both physical places and online places where we need to be present to build awareness amongst the families we're trying to reach. You know, Emmanuel and I were part of a meeting of religious leaders in Tacoma when we were in the process of recruiting families for one of our schools there. We really want to make sure that we are being as creative and as expansive as we can, because we know that not everybody sees your first posting about an opportunity like this, and we explicitly do a lottery process because we don't want to be a an organization that responds only to people who are kind of on the ball for getting information. So we start there, and then we also do advertise on social media. So we found last year in some of the testing that we did that we had some good results with Facebook ads just to build awareness among parents, and we were able to generate some interest that way. We do search advertising just to try to kind of create as much of a surround as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So additionally, we really like to have boots on the ground. And when we work with our partners, we try to identify where the families that we are targeting, where they do their grocery shopping, where they meet, maybe the laundromat, places like that where we can reach them. And we print flyers, we share that. So we have a very strong community engagement team that also work with us, you know, as part of Bezos Academy, that continues building that relationship. But that is one of the key reasons we work with partners that are embedded and genuine within communities, because they know the community better than we do. So we come to them and they support in terms of outreach to the families that need our services. For opening date, we are hopeful that with your approval, we can get the lease signed, and there are activities, there are things we need to do. A lot of things have been said about improvement to the building. So construction time, recruitment time, we have talked about enrollment, reaching out to the community, all that. And we are hopeful that if we could sign this lease by the end of this month, we'll be able to open the school in the fall of this year. That is our target.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you much. Councilmember Fossey, your turn.
Thank you. I appreciate some of Councilmember Ryan's comments. She covered some of my questions, and so I had some of those answered. But I have a few others. I'm also a mom. My son is currently in kindergarten in Everett Public Schools, and my daughter soon will eventually need. She's 2 now. She just turned 2 this last week. So I understand the difficulty of trying to find childcare, early learning facilities, and there is a desperate need in this community for that. So especially full day year round. So that's pretty exciting. I love that it is a transit oriented location. Actually, I think that's an area that's definitely destined for more pedestrian activity. And I can only see that as a positive revitalization and a really good use of a wonderful facility. I like that you'll be prioritizing hiring and training teachers from the community. And I was kind of really glad to hear about your approach to compensation. Will we have a chance to kind of see what the contractual terms are when that's brought forward in the future? I don't know, that's a question for the city.
I'll answer that. I don't believe we're obligating the Bezos Academy in any way to share that or have any approval beyond the lease agreement that you'll see next.
I meant the lease agreement. Like we'll see the details of that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I believe I heard you say that you were also giving priority towards those suffering from homelessness and those in foster care, which is great because we have a huge shortage of that in those facilities too. I'm curious how inclusive your efforts are with people and children that may have disabilities or behavioral difficulties. I know that's a difficult one to find services for these days.
I can answer that question. One of the things that we are experiencing at our schools is that for many of the students that we're serving, and for our youngest students, ours is their first encounter with an education provider. So in some cases, we're the first group of people who have the opportunity to compare where they are and where their needs are to other students their age, and have found ourselves in a situation where we are also oftentimes the first to be able to alert families to the resources at their disposal if they do have a child who has special needs and would qualify for services. We also have students who are, in situations where the state is involved in monitoring their situation. And I'll share an anecdote, and I won't share any information that would be identifiable, but in one of our schools recently, we were contacted by a social worker who was responsible for one of the kids in our school, and wanted to see how they were doing. And in talking to the teachers in this child's classroom, the social worker expressed amazement at how well this child was doing, because they had been having so many problems in their previous situations for so long, which, I mean, is, as you can imagine, tears. I mean, so excited that we're able to help a child in this way. All that said, we know there are going to be children who have needs beyond what we're able to meet. We haven't encountered that yet, but our approach is, very much grounded in the Montessori principles of really kind of meeting every child where they're at, assessing their needs. And if and when we encounter a child who we feel like we are not well equipped to help in our schools, then we take our responsibility very seriously to make sure that that child gets the help that they need somewhere else.
Sorry, my children just ran out. Thank you. Thank you for your answer on that. You mentioned partnerships with the local community and stakeholdering work. Do you have any examples in Everett who that may potentially include yet, or is this more of just kind of the initial investigation?
That is work. Yeah, Scott, I'll let you chime in, but I would just say that is work that we usually begin in earnest, after we have a signed lease agreement, and we do have a team that's part of our education team. So part of the same group within our organization that is, houses all of our educators. And we have a team of people who are focused specifically on that kind of community partnership and outreach piece once we do start working with the community and we're headed towards opening.
Okay. And last question, is it normal with your other facilities, the other areas that you have the lease agreements to not do rent, or is this more of a special incentive for Everett?
I can take that one. We have not paid rent. Our model, we're really focused on, as we kind of described, finding partners that are really philosophically aligned with what we're doing and want to put some skin in the game. And so to date, this has been our model, and we believe it's the right one, at least for now.
Okay. All right. Just curiosity, no judgment. Just
sure.
Just wondering. Well, this sounds really awesome. That's exciting news. Okay. I think that's it for all of my questions. Thank you for answering them.
Thank you, Councilmember Fosse. I saw Mayor Franklin's hand and now she's disappeared.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
yeah, thank you, Councilmember Vogely. I just wanted to address the rent issue. I think that it is true that you know, if we could possibly rent this facility, although it's standing there vacant right now. So we are currently not collecting rent. So there is no financial loss to the city in taking this step, you know, or I guess to transit, because they're just going to get the rent now from the general fund that they didn't have before. And I think for our very tiny investment of $60,000 a year to be able to provide childcare to 60 children in poverty, and not just childcare, but outstanding early learning and food and just the resource year round is just thrilling, I think. And so it's just such a gift to be able to develop this partnership together with Bezos and our team. So yeah, it is something that that small investment the city can make, the benefit to our community is pretty outstanding. Very exciting.
Thank you, Mayor. It is my turn. I thank you very much for the presentation and all of the work that has gone into this. I have been an early childhood educator for many years, and I'm very familiar with how it all works and how it all doesn't work. And I feel like a lot of my questions have to do with me as a mother and childcare provider, like interviewing you for my kids to go to school. So I'm not going to ask every single question. And let's see, time check 8:05. We have some other things to do. And I just, first of all, yes, fantastic. I am hearing wonderful things. And then the elephant in the room is Bezos. And that's the name of the academy. And I'm pretty sure that's Jeff Bezos, the Amazon Lord. So I just, there's this skeptical kind of too good to be true. What, you know, there's been so many things that have happened everywhere. It's amazing that you can come and present free. I mean, just this wonderful, wonderful situation. So there's that. Gosh, staff and Montessori industry. Let's see. I'm curious, in the Montessori model, I think this has already been answered, and I'm not too worried about parking, but they typically like have the parents just drop off, like you said, and the teachers are coming out. Will it be, once COVID is finally under control, will it be an open space that parents can observe or volunteer in?
That is our desire. And even in the pandemic, we have sought ways to create opportunities for families to participate. So, for example, at our first school, there was a blank wall on the side of the playground, a cement wall. And one of the dads of our students is a tattoo artist. And so he painted the outlines of this amazing mural on this wall. And then we had families sign up for different time slots to come, and we provided colorful paint, and they, with their kids, would fill in the blanks of this mural. So we've had virtual food festivals where we invite, we do kind of a show and tell on favorite foods, and we invite families to participate virtually. But yes, our absolute goal, because we know how helpful it is, parents and guardians feel like they are part of their child's school experience, how helpful it is for them and how helpful it is for their children, that we absolutely are going to be looking to do in-person community building, volunteer opportunities as soon as we have that chance to do them safely.
Thank you. Let's see, is it still in the wax that it's 10 kids of this age per one teacher? And so I'm asking because there's going to be one lead teacher and 2 assistants. And then I think I heard you say hours would be 8 to 5:30, which is over 8 hours a day unless the lunch is really long. And just knowing as a childhood educator, in early childhood education, being able to get breaks, and teachers are typically very involved with their kids. You know, it's their kids. And I want to make sure that the teachers are getting cared for, because if the teachers are cared for, the students are cared for. And so they need to be getting paid a living wage. I'm assuming if you're paying for everything, then they're going to be getting, and you said it was, they're good benefits, and that's great. I don't think it's in our purview to dictate how much you pay them, but the money's there. And when you say you hire committed teachers, I guess, how are you going to know that they're committed? And maybe these are all just general, maybe you can't answer them, but if they were able to unionize, that is sometimes a way to know that they're committed. So is there an opportunity for union representation? I'm going to guess you're not going to tell me about that. But
so Liz,
yes.
This is Cassie. Sorry, I just want to jump in. First, I do believe that they did talk about the salaries in general for the employees, which is in line with Everett public school system, which is very generous. We're also only discussing 12 employees. And I do fear we're getting a little bit into the weeds of the operations when really our decision is whether or not we utilize this space. So I just want to remind us as to what is before council tonight, not the operations of everything in the preschool, but whether or not the transit center is available. Which fantastic.
Okay, I've been talking for 6 minutes. Thank you. And back to this, the 3-mile radius. I know you're looking for other places as well. I imagine other places in Everett if this first place works awesomely and goes forward. I live way down south, as does Councilmember Zarlingo, and the 3-mile radius does not quite hit my district. So will there be, it's a lottery, but you don't have to live within 3 miles. There's kids everywhere, and some don't even have addresses. Okay. And I'm trying to think of the city buildings that we have down in South Everett, and it's not coming to mind. So somebody can get back to me on that. Other than that, transit oriented and with the Housing Hope, all of those things on Broadway, I think it will really benefit the community, and it's quite impressive. And like I said, is this too good to be true? It's quite impressive, and I really would like to talk offline about just how amazing it could possibly be. So
you should come and visit. You should. When we can have guests, we would love to have you come and visit an operating school. I wish that my children were able to attend one of our schools. And I'm very serious that you will not be disappointed.
Thank you. I see. That's all I've got, sort of. That's all I'll give you now. Dan, you have something else?
Well, I just wanted to close with a couple comments that I heard that maybe weren't addressed, and as well as just say the next steps if we were at that point.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So the things I heard that maybe weren't addressed, Bezos Academy was funded by Jeff Bezos as a a personal philanthropy foundation gift of $2 billion. So this is a very well-funded tenant that we're considering putting into the Everett transit station. It's not Jeff Bezos, it's the foundation that is run like foundations are, with lots of checks and balances and lots of votes like this in front of boards. And it also is separate from Amazon or any of the other ventures for profit that are, so closely linked with Jeff Bezos for good reason. And the free, I don't think, comes with a catch like my free shipping that I get. So I understand the skepticism, but there's not even a $90 a year charge with this
120
one.
now, but
120, yeah. So all I have to say is in the last year of doing due diligence and working with these people, this is the real deal. We are so thrilled to be able to bring this opportunity. The opportunity will be presented in the next council meeting. We are proposing that just goes, the lease agreement goes in the consent agenda, and you will have, in fact, Tim Benedict just chatted with me on Teams and said he just uploaded to the council agenda packet. So I know that lease agreement will go out with the cover letter and so forth. And so next week will be the vote. We hope to do our best as a permitting city, working with the Snohomish County, who do a lot of the permitting for this space because of the health and safety needs and so forth. So we'll work together with our partners to get them open in the fall if there's any way possible.
thank you so much, Mr. Ernestine. Appreciate it. And thank you very much for answering my unasked questions about the elephant. So very appreciated. And with that, the action will come next week, and you can wait with bated breath to see if the lease will be accepted. And now, unless there's anything else for our presenters, it is late in the game. Okay, I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. So Bezos Academy, thank you very much. You are released. And next we will go to number 8, alleviating homelessness and pallet expansion briefing with, I believe, Julie Willie. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, everyone.
Good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Right.
I'm going to just take a second to share my screen. Unfortunately, I don't have cute little baby hands or a video to show you. I have some really great graphics though that our communications team has helped us to create. So just give me 1 second, please. Okay, so with that, are you able to see my screen? No?
Right now I see your name.
Not yet.
Oh. Try one more time.
There we have it.
Okay, excellent. So good evening, Council. Very nice to be here with you tonight. And I'm Julie Willie, the Community Development Division Director with Community Planning and Economic Development Department. And tonight I'm here to share a high-level overview of the strategies that are being developed to address and alleviate homelessness in Everett. Maintain a balanced approach that ensures our unsheltered residents have access to the services needed and housing available, while also ensuring our residents and guests feel safe and our businesses thrive, continues to be our North Star. The following slides will share buckets of work that the city is pursuing to make a difference for those living unsheltered, as well as assisting us in defining how best to utilize the one-time American Rescue Plan funds to create the needed infrastructure that addresses our increased urban homeless challenges, as well as endorse broader strategies for housing for all. Over the past several months, we have worked internally to understand our city's biggest challenges and opportunities. and we have included our community partners in validating both the current and future needs to best address our challenges related to homelessness. Together, we identified the programs, services, and partnerships that are working and those that are needed to alleviate homelessness uniquely in the City of Everett. This was shared with the council this past August, and since then, we've distilled them down into these key areas of work that have become the city's priorities for 2022 and beyond. This graphic shares an overview of those buckets of work that we are launching in partnership with our nonprofit service providers, faith organizations, Snohomish County Human Services, as well as the county's Office of Economic Recovery and Resilience. The first bucket is outreach, navigation, and support, which is needed to best address the increased number of those living unsheltered in Everett. We want to ensure we have the right balance of these services to address individuals living on the sidewalks, in cars, parks, public rights of way, and in our environmentally sensitive areas. Our hope is to ensure assistance for them to find more stability and permanent housing, as well as to lessen the impacts to other parts of our city. We have a strong community outreach and enforcement team known as COET, which is our co-responder unit of the police officers and social workers. And they have built a necessary program that responds with outreach and connections to services and only includes a legal enforcement component when laws are broken. In addition, we recognize we need to do more to directly address the individuals one by one who are homeless in our city. Internally, we are exploring increasing navigation and case management, as well as an alternative response option, and we're planning to collaborate with agencies doing similar work to provide a deeper level of coordination, accountability, and planning so unsheltered individuals can obtain the resources they want and need. The next bucket is ensuring our community has access to food, both those who are living unsheltered and those who have income or food insecurities. We have a long-standing city-supported Hot Meals Coalition that has built a network of successful meal programs and who has done a tremendous job during our most difficult of COVID times to ensure meals were still provided. Moving forward, we plan to engage with them to revisit best practices for meal programs post-COVID so that meals are provided, accessible, and valued, and that the negative community impacts are mitigated. In addition, our food bank network is strong in the City of Everett, and we want to help ensure that all agencies who work with individuals and our residents know how to access food resources when they are needed. It is broadly known that our county does not have enough emergency or temporary shelter beds to accommodate those who are living without permanent housing. We have been working to articulate and address this problem, both by increasing temporary shelter in Everett and by working with Snohomish County and other cities to support and encourage increased shelter options in places other than in Everett. Our city successfully launched a new shelter pallet program in 2021 using Everett-built pallet shelters with funds from the State Department of Commerce. This site, located on a vacant transit property, is managed by the Everett Gospel Mission. It currently shelters 24 individuals who have been chronically homeless in Everett and who our COET team has been working with. Using ARPA funds, we plan to expand the use of pallet shelters and have purchased 40 additional units. Plans are underway for the deployment of these units, anticipating 20 more shelters may be placed at the EGM pilot site, and 6 to 8 of them are being planned for a church property in central Everett, which will provide temporary shelter for families with children. We are in initial discussions about a third site for the remaining pallets, and certainly will bring you more plans as they emerge. The county is working to expand the use of hotel rooms to provide both shelter and access to services, and it is a strategy that we see beneficial to Everett, as it not only increases shelter beds, it provides the individualized navigation and case management that we see as a mandatory component for a successful shelter program. I anticipate shelter will be an ongoing topic for the foreseeable future, so definitely more to come on that. As early as 2015, following the Community Streets Initiative, It's been recognized that our city needed additional daytime places for unsheltered individuals to spend their time and have access to resources. The creation of some type of day center, or perhaps 2 smaller versions, could provide showers or meals, laundry, medical care, and access for service providers to connect. And although we thought this was a longer-term goal, there may be opportunities with our ARPA funding to expedite this strategy, and we will be working with community partners to further pursue. Broader strategies to alleviate homelessness is certainly not just about addressing those living chronically homeless, rather ensuring that we have housing for all. We finalized the city's housing action plan this past fall and have many strategies to implement to ensure increased housing stock and address affordable housing, which obviously we recognize is no small feat. We will work beside the county as they relaunch their housing affordability regional task force work, and we will seek to develop partnerships that can help us build a housing pipeline that may begin with emergency shelter and could end with enough end-of-life senior living and encompass everything in between. The city is also committed to providing resources that support the coordination of efforts to address student homelessness and wants to help close the on-ramp that leads to children and young people being unhoused, whether they find themselves in a situation alone or as part of a family. Closing the ramp for kids today can change the entire direction and destination of their life and can help eradicate chronically homelessness in the future. Let's add that Bezos Academy to this slide as well. In 2021, Mayor Franklin convened the Homeless Student Task Force. The task force dove deeply into learning about the realities of being a child, teen, parent, or family who are living without a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, and how difficult school success is because of it. They learned of successful local, regional, and national programs and services and identified gaps for seamless care and support. At the end of their study, they made short and long-term recommendations for the city to consider, and based on those recommendations, which are consistent with the other strategies being developed, the 4 key areas that they wanted us to ensure were community education, advocacy, the development of housing and shelter, and the need for strong partnerships. The final bucket is the need for ongoing advocacy and education of our community. Advocacy for funding and good policies that support increased behavioral health, treatment, and housing will be an ongoing need. And to best educate our community on the complexities and realities of homelessness, including for our students, to ensure our community knows how to connect to resources and services, and to share stories of success, both of people and programs, so that we can continue to build hope in our community. We are starting with updates to our website, and we'll be working with Everett Faith in Action on the production of a small video series that will come out later this year. With that, my overview is complete. As referenced, ARPA funds will be a tool in helping us to move strategies forward. The previous council was provided an overview of possible ARPA funding allocations this past fall, which have continued to evolve and adjust. And we will plan to bring you an updated version of that work in the next few weeks. We continue to believe that Everett is a beautiful place to live and that we have what it takes to alleviate homelessness and ensure a positive quality of life for all. Thank you, and I'm happy to hear your feedback or answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Julie. I will go down the line and Councilmember Zarlingo.
That was a good presentation. Thank you for the summary, and I look forward to hearing more.
Sounds like that's it. All right, Councilmember Ryan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. That was really helpful to bring us up to speed on current efforts by the city. And I just wanted to share that I'm so supportive of the pallet shelter initiative and really glad to see it expanding. And I think that just the Pallet Incorporated as a business is so impressive. I had a chance to tour their facility last year, and their business model of employing people with lived homelessness experience or incarceration experience across every single job at their factory, from marketing to design to on the floor putting the houses together. I think it's such a great model to follow. So I'm really glad that it's right here in Everett, that they're doing a great work for our community. I'm definitely, when I think about housing and homelessness issues, I think about how like for starters, housing first, that the best way to help somebody who's experiencing homelessness is to house them. And so being able to provide a space like a pallet shelter or temporary housing is really a great first step. And glad to see that there's renewed efforts towards building permanent affordable housing in the area, since the current wait list is about 8 to 9 years. So the folks who are in the temporary shelters have a long wait list till they can move into a permanent and supportive space. And so I also see it as like a parity issue, that a lot of the folks that are living on the streets, they might need additional services besides just housing. They might need help with getting into a diversion center or a substance use disorder space, or job training, or mental health services, or behavioral health services. So there's, I'd love to see, I'm always supportive of a spectrum of interventions for folks that and opportunities for people on the streets to be able to just get whatever it is that they need that addresses their individual reason for experiencing homelessness. So always supportive of that. And yeah, and I'm also glad to see that hygiene listed on the list as well as a priority, and would love to see a public toilet in the city of Everett. So just wanted to share my support for that on the record. So thank you so much, Julie, and definitely more than happy to support in any way that I can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I know this is a repeat question. Could you summarize the number of pallet shelters that we'll be adding, and the locations and the timeline on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share with you what I know to date. So the first site is the expansion of the Everett Gospel Mission site. That when we originally did the site plan for that site, it was zoned for up to 53, I think, pallets. And so we kind of planned ahead of time in case it was a successful program to be able to expand it. And, the Gospel Mission has learned a tremendous amount about this population, and they continue to want to try and support the chronically homeless population in Everett. And so they are willing to double that location. So the goal is that we will put 20 more individual pallets on that site for a total of 40 64 square foot pallets. So they will be for individuals. We have a couple couples living down there, but 64 square feet is quite small for one person, let alone two people. So as we move forward, we're making them for individuals as just kind of a smart programmatic move. The second site is currently in a pre-application phase at the city planning, and we've met with them kind of to go, multiple departments have met with them in a pre-application meeting to go over the multiple land use and fire safety and water and sewage and all of the things that you have to do when you develop a piece of property in Everett. And so that meeting has taken place, and we're moving forward with them. It's a church in central Everett. They have a vacant parcel behind their kind of campus, and they want to put 6 to 8 shelters on that space for families. So they want it to be a temporary 90-day transitional shelter, so that people will quickly move into permanent housing, and working with Interfaith, who does that work on a daily basis. So that's the kind of the second site. And then the third site, we have been, as I mentioned, just really working with community partners and sharing this vision with them to see if other organizations may be interested in managing a pallet community, primarily because we know we need strong organizations to lead it. We do not want to start a site that doesn't have an organization that can manage the finances and manage the population. And so we've had conversations with just a couple organizations that I think are going to be viable. And we're also looking at city properties that we might be able to place the pallets on. So that one's like yet to be determined, but I think we're close. And as soon as I know more, absolutely, you guys will be the first to know.
Great job. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilmember Schwab. Councilmember Tui.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Really appreciate that overview, and I do look forward to working with you this year as liaison to housing and homelessness. real excited to hear about the possibility of a day center. That's something that I have really felt was necessary for a long time. And so I'm really excited to hear that. So anyway, I have no other questions or anything at this time. Look forward to working with you, Julie. So,
Me too. Thank you.
you bet.
Fantastic. Councilmember Fossey.
Thank you for such a wonderful presentation and for the city focusing on this. I really appreciate the community education portion of this, because I feel like there's so many of our neighbors that don't realize what's going on behind the scenes and how much this issue is being worked on, and it does take time. And I'm really, really looking forward to also the work that the new committees that are coming forward will be doing, and a lot of help trying to help with some of the community education aspect of that. Some of our other council members here, I also believe in housing first policies and that approach being really successful. Also having a focus on the trauma-informed care, because that also makes a difference, as well as those partnerships with those with the lived experience really help advise direction. And yeah, public toilets, also supportive of that. Thank you for your work. I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Well, when we bring back the list of the ARPA list, public toilets are still on that list. So it has not been gone or forgotten. It still is there. It might not be under a homeless strategy, but it is under a need for our community. So.
And just so you know, I'm going to jump in. You guys are music to my ears. I've been trying to champion public toilets since I was on the Community Streets Initiative, and it has been difficult to move that item because it is met with a lot of concerns with the community, but we can't solve it without it. So thank you for what I'm hearing is a lot of support for that.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Fossey. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, good to hear. And I'm curious if you are possibly looking into updating the temporary shelter ordinance. If not, or if so, maybe the homelessness and housing can look into that, because I know there's a 90-day, there's a whole lot of rules, a lot that need to be sifted through. And I would make a recommendation to look at that and see if the committee might find some time. And I was also very interested in the food distribution piece, and knowing that having that consensus, that group of people that knows what's going on, when people are getting served, and hopefully being able to have the facilities to utilize, to throw away their garbage and to then go to the bathroom. It's all a big work in progress. And I know in COVID times, it's very difficult. So just thanks for bringing that up. And I, of course, support most of the housing initiatives that come forward. So
I could answer just a little bit of your question. And apparently at 8:36, that's when the mood lights change in the Wall Street building, and it gets dark now. So I think it's time for us to all go home is what it means. But nonetheless, I wanted you to know that, when we did the Rethink Housing work, a lot of the definitions were reviewed, but now it's already, it's only 2 years later, and our state definitions have also changed. And so as that's part of the work that they'll be coming back through the comp plan to make further updates. And so Becky in our planning department is working on trying to align our definitions with the mandated state definitions, and so that it gets more clear, because we have emergency shelter, we have transitional shelter, and we need a pipeline of all, and different populations fit into different, needs. And so that absolutely is a part of our future work. And the Hot Mills Coalition is a great partner. So thank you for that kind of endorsement.
Absolutely. Thank you for all you do. Let's see, that was the end for me. If anybody has anything else for anything, speak now or wait till next week. Oh, Councilmember Zarlingo. Nope, just unmuting on accident.
Say goodnight.
Okay, well then, that is the end of the agenda. As noted at the start of this meeting and provided on the screen now, you may contact Deb Williams in the council office for instructions on watching, listening, or participating in our weekly meeting. She can be reached by phone at 425-257-8703 or by email at dwilliams@everettwa.gov. And with no further business and no executive session, we are adjourned. Good night.